got to talk about Kamala Harris today because there's been some new news about Miss Kamala and who she really was behind closed doors. And I don't think we're really surprised about this, right? Because Democrats are paid actors. I mean, they're literally paid actors. And I always give the example of Hakeem Jeffries because when he speaks in front of a camera, he does the whole, and the MAGA extremists, Republicans, they're trying to cut Medicaid and take food away from American families. Like, he always does these pregnant pauses whenever he talks in front of a camera. But if you watch him when he doesn't know a camera is on him, that's not how he actually talks. He talks regular. Or who's the Democrat that the black gentleman with the fro? I think he's out of Tennessee, maybe. I could be wrong about that, but he did the whole, I'm going to talk like MLK, kind of deal. Like, they're all paid actors, right? These are not who they really are. So it shouldn't be too shocking that she is this type of person, but we're going to get into it a little bit. And I first want to start off with this clip of her basically bashing Robert Hur, because it all boils down to an interview that she had with Anderson Cooper about Joe Biden. So before we get into that, I want to get into this clip of her bashing Robert Hur, because this is kind of where it all started. Let's dive in.
As a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. The way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated, gratuitous. And so I will say that when it comes to the role and responsibility of a prosecutor in a situation like that, we should expect that there would be a higher level of integrity than what we saw.
A higher level of integrity than what we saw. Well, she went on the show went on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and he began to question her about Joe Biden. And the fashion with which he questioned her, she got a little uncomfortable. And she didn't like it too much. So let's check out part of the interview with her and Anderson Cooper, and then we'll get into her reaction to it.
Has described a panic inside the Democratic Party right now because of President Biden's performance in tonight's debate. He's been hearing from Democratic lawmakers and others around the country. Some within your own party are wondering if President Biden should even step aside. What do you say to that?
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong.
And but I'm sorry, on substance and policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate. Donald Trump lied over and over and over again, as he is wont to do. He would not disavow what happened on January 6th. He would not give a clear answer on whether he would stand by the election results this November. He went back and forth about where he stands on one of the most critical issues of freedom in America, which is the right of a woman to make decisions about their own body. He has been completely ambiguous and all over the place about where he stands on that issue, despite the fact that he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and that's exactly what they did. And just 3 years ago, we commemorated the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs, wherein women across our country have been denied emergency health care,
All that may be true. All that may be true. But the president of the United States was not able to make that case to Donald Trump on the stage tonight. I mean, you debated against then Vice President Biden 4 years ago, and he was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. That's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A president who incites an insurrection against the Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5 hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But whether it be infrastructure, the man who we saw on the stage tonight, is that the person you see in meetings every day?
The person that you saw on the debate stage that has, for the last 3.5 years, up until today, performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals so that we have an infrastructure, a real infrastructure plan where we're putting trillions of dollars on the streets of America to upgrade our infrastructure. Whether it be the person I see in the Oval Office who is meeting with heads of the military and the intelligence community and in the Situation Room, ensuring the safety of America. The person I see in Joe Biden on the world stage, convening world leaders who often ask for his advice, most recently just during the G7 conference. So I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
But this was a debate that your campaign wanted. You pushed for this debate at this moment. Obviously, you can't honestly say, can you say that you are not concerned at all having watched the president's performance tonight?
It was a slow start. That's obvious to everyone. I'm not going to debate that point.
John has
So Anderson Cooper, he asked the question, but he didn't follow up because, as you noticed there, she didn't truly answer the question. I believe at one point he asked her something along the lines of, is the Joe Biden we saw on stage today, is that the Joe Biden you see every day at the White House? And she didn't really answer it. She went into like this long soliloquy about, 3.5 years of blah, 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 even though we found out that clearly you could be president, but not actually be the president. You know what I mean? So like 3.5 years means absolutely nothing. But this is what she allegedly had to say about that interview with him actually questioning her, which I don't even think that was a tough interview. I don't even think like he was throwing her tough questions. Those were just simple questions that you should be asked about, right? If you're being a good journalist, if you're being an honest journalist, those are questions that should be asked after a debate performance like Joe Biden had, right? I think he should have followed up more and forced her hand to make her really answer the questions, but, we all know how mainstream media is. But I want to hop into this clip of her reaction afterwards, and you probably won't be shocked.
Relative to Vice President Kamala Harris, she has an interview with Anderson Cooper post-debate. You write about this in the book. By the way, I've got to do an eats, shoots, and leaves, if you remember the book and the importance of punctuation. I've got to do an eats, shoots, and leaves analysis of one graph of your book, Alex, and it comes on page 290, and it's getting a lot of attention today. This MFer doesn't treat me like the damn Vice President of the United States, she said to colleagues. I thought we were better than that. I'm being real persnickety now, but there are not quotation marks around that in the book. Is that a direct quote from Kamala Harris about Anderson Cooper?
I will go back to my copy, but my understanding is that it is. That she was incredibly frustrated with Anderson Cooper asking the same question over and over again, which Anderson Cooper, this was the night of the debate, Anderson was like, have you ever seen him act that way behind the scenes? Because if the Vice President of the United States had seen the president act that way on, behind the scenes as he had acted on the debate stage and said nothing, I think it would have been incredibly indicting. But, Kamala Harris, I can tell you 100% was infuriated after that interview.
So she allegedly said, this MFer This mother doesn't treat me like the vice president. So how did you want to be treated, Kamala? Like royalty or something? Nobody's allowed to ask you any types of questions that are obvious questions that should be asked. You see what I'm saying? They accuse Trump of wanting to be a dictator and the ultimate ruler of the country, but yet behind closed doors, they're the ones that feel like they should be the dictators and treated like royalty in this country. You're not even allowed to ask them any even slightly tough questions. Otherwise, if you do, this MFer, he doesn't show me any respect. What? Because he's asking you questions? Remember, this is the thing that I've learned on this journey of discovering the truth. Democrats always accuse Republicans of what they are or what they do. They've been pointing the finger at Uncle Trump. Hey, Trump's a dictator. He wants to be Putin, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, it's Democrats. And we've seen it. We saw it there with her comments, right? Somebody who thinks they're above being asked questions. I think that's very clear that they want to be the ultimate ruler of the country and they think they're above everybody else. We saw that these guys will do anything to remain in power. I mean, they lied and covered up a president who was cognitively impaired, who was physically impaired, right? I mean, the man had cancer. Now it's to the point where it's to the bone. So this didn't happen overnight. They knew about this for quite a long time. And they did little things throughout the 4 years to try to cover it up. Like at one point, Biden was walking to the helicopter by himself, from the White House to the helicopter by himself. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of people would crowd around him as he walked to the helicopter out of nowhere. How do you think that is? To try to cover up his gait. If he stumbled, they were there to catch him. See what I mean? They will do anything to stay in power, but they keep trying to point the finger at Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump's a dictator. Hold on, wait a minute. But you literally lied to the American people simply to stay in power, simply to keep a puppet in office who wasn't the one pulling the strings. So who's really the dictator? Who's really the wannabe dictator? Is it really Uncle Trump or was it actually you? I think we all know the answer to that. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Make sure you guys hit that like button for the algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free. Peace and love. I'm out.